You're listening to Saturday Morning Media. And now, back to our show. Under the Puppet is made possible by the Saturday Morning Media Patreon patrons who support the show over at patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media. Welcome to Under the Puppet, the show that talks to professional puppeteers about the art and business of puppetry with the sole purpose of helping you up your puppet game. My name is Grandpa Choco, and this is Under the Puppet. Greetings, puppeteers and puppet fans from around the world. For our interview this episode, we are talking to puppeteer Donna Kimball. Donna works regularly with the Jim Henson Company, where she's puppeteered on such projects as Splash and Bubbles, Word Party, Pajanimals, and Sid the Science Kid, where she played Teacher Susie. Her other credits include Sid and Marty Krofft's Mutt and Stuff, Greg the Bunny, Angel, and more. This is a fun interview, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it. Be sure to stick around after the interview for the next step in your puppeteer action plan. But for now, here's my talk with Donna Kimball. Donna Kimball has performed on such shows as the Jim Henson Company's Word Party, Splash and Bubbles, and Sid the Science Kid. She's also been on Pajanimals, Greg the Bunny, Mutt and Stuff, and a lot of other things. Donna Kimball, welcome to Under the Puppet.
Hey, Grant. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I am so excited to talk to you. You are somebody who I've known for a long time in the puppeteering world, and I've always admired your work, and I think you're incredibly talented, so I'm excited to pick your brain.
Well, I am here for the picking.
Excellent. So going back, what is the first puppet you remember seeing?
I think everything on PBS is what I originally saw. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but particularly Sesame Street. That was huge for me. I watched Sesame Street. I think I was kind of the target demographic when it came out, but I watched it for years, and much to the, I was teased by other kids that I knew because I watched it well into third grade, fourth grade, because I loved the puppetry so much, and it was so funny. And every puppet special that came on, every Muppet special that came on, Hey Cinderella, the Frog Prince, man, we had Muppet Musicians of Bremen, love that. I still draw on some of those things. I did a character in Splash and Bubbles that I based on the catgut from Muppet Musicians of Bremen. So, you know, there's this database of inspiration, and Jim Henson is a huge part of that. And Sid and Marty Krofft as well, H.R. Pufnstuf, all of those things. So it's quite a great time to be a kid back in those days. Yeah. And did you get inspired to pursue puppetry from you know what I mean? Like as a kid, was that something you wanted to do, or did the puppetry come later? As a hobby, absolutely. I have a photo of me with no teeth. All my teeth are missing in the front, with a Cookie Monster puppet, a store-bought Cookie Monster puppet. That was my first puppet. I think I was maybe 7 at the time, but I started just collecting puppets, and my brother and I would put on puppet shows, and there'd be funny songs on the radio in back in the 70s, and we would just do puppet shows and act them out and perform them for other kids in the neighborhood.
And going to school, did you go to school for performing, like acting and stuff like that? Yes,
I discovered that I wanted to be an actor in high school, and actually in performing a lot of characters at once. I went to a rural school outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and there was no theater program. We didn't put on like big plays or musicals, but what we did do was speech tournaments. And so I competed in humorous interpretation, where you have to perform several characters at once, characters that speak to each other, and it's very regimented. You can't move your feet, you can't use props. So I did this Sherlock Holmes thing my senior year with 8 characters, and ended up going to nationals and placing 6th in the nation with a big giant trophy that looked like a lamp. But I think that was really the beginning of being able to do several different voices and several different characters, and which certainly helped my puppetry.
And when did puppetry become, like, what was your first puppet gig outside of singing along to songs on the radio as a kid?
Yeah. Much later, after I was a professional actor, I was doing a show in the Miami area where I lived after college, and I was doing a show with another actor named Paul Lewis. And we were talking about our mutual love of puppetry, how we would play with puppets as kids and put on shows for the neighborhood. And he said, hey, if I built some puppets, would you do shows with me at like malls and schools? It won't pay much, but I was like, sure. So we did. So for $60 a show, We would pack everything in his Subaru or whatever and go to malls and schools, and it was so guerrilla. It was so down and dirty, but it was great. And then he ended up selling one to a local producer just after I moved out to Los Angeles. And so I ended up going back to Miami and shooting my first series. It was
Wow.
Jelly Bean Jungle.
Jelly Bean Jungle.
1994, which was also Amy Garcia's first show, Brad Abrils' first show, Frank Langley's first show as an art director and puppet builder. So yeah, you just never know. And it was just from doing these little shows around town. You just never know where things are going to lead.
Yeah, I have to ask, you said $60 per show. Was that how much they paid to have the show there, or did you actually get $60 per
I
show?
cleared $60
Wow,
a
that's
show,
good.
right?
Even in today's...
As a non-equity actor struggling to, it's either that or waiting tables, it was great.
Yeah, no,
it really helped
that's
to
really
supplement
good.
the income.
Yeah. What made you decide to move out to Los Angeles? Just to pursue acting?
Yes, I had gone about as far as I could go in a smaller market. That was quite a deliberate choice to go to a smaller market after college to get experience, to get my acting reels up, to get my union cards, and then move out here. And at the time, the guy I was with, it's always a guy, right? He wanted to come to Los Angeles, and I preferred New York, but we ended up coming out here. And like I said, I was here a few months and then went back to Miami for 6 months to shoot my first series. So that was kind of funny. But then, but yeah, so no regrets.
And after shooting your first puppet series, did you kind of like, okay, puppetry is, I want to keep pursuing this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. And I could tell it was something really special. I could tell that as long as I could physically and vocally do it, that it could be a longer career than acting, and so far that's proven to be the case. And also, sometimes it's a smaller market. It's a niche. I always tell people it's an acting niche. It's a performing niche, but it's a smaller amount of work, a smaller amount of people doing it. But if you're any good at all, you have a good chance of working pretty consistently, I think.
Yeah. What is the best piece of puppetry advice that you ever received that you still use to this day?
Be nice to everyone. Really, because my first Los Angeles show was Crayon Box, and I worked with Kristen Charney, who said, be nice to everyone, be nice to people who are assisting you, be nice to wranglers, be nice to everyone, because you never know, someone who's assisting you on this job, you will very likely be assisting them on the next job. So, be nice to everyone. There isn't, don't think of a hierarchy. Think of that we're all a level playing field. I thought that was, I kind of operate that way anyway. I generally am a nice person, but that was good advice to have. And I've thought about that a lot over the years. Yeah, thanks, Kristen.
I think it's also great advice. And Kristen Charney's certainly nice. She embodies niceness. Not that you don't, but Kristen Charney is super nice. But it's a great piece of advice, because you can also work on something. You're nice to somebody, and then that person, goes to another project. And, we need a puppeteer. Oh, I know a really nice puppeteer we could call.
Yeah. And there, I brought John Tartaglia in to talk to some performers at my daughter's high school, and he said something I really think is true. No one really has the time to deal with someone who has a huge ego. And I've always felt that if you're going to have an ego, if you're going to be difficult to work with, you better be brilliant. You better have something that no one else has. And really, very few people have something no one else has. So it's just easier to just be nice.
Yeah.
Just treat everyone well. It's easy.
Be someone people want to work with.
Absolutely.
And then you'll work with them.
Very important.
Yeah. Who do you think is a puppeteer that every puppeteer needs to know and to watch and study?
To know and watch and study. Oh gosh, there are so many. Alice Deneen is absolutely brilliant. Victor Yared, brilliant. And so prolific, always creating his own work. Gosh, so many. I think my favorite... The person whose work is absolutely exquisite to me is Peter Linz. Peter Linz is up there with Frank Oz, in my opinion. I've only worked with him a couple of times, but there was an episode of Bear in the Big Blue House where he played Tutter, and it was an episode where Tutter had to sing a solo and was terrified. and finally just pushes through the fear and sings the solo with such gusto, and yet there's all this fear underlying it too. It's the most layered, hilarious, endearing performance, and I remember seeing it with my daughter and thinking, that's the kind of puppeteer I want to be, the kind that is just and I actually got to tell him that story after I worked with him, so that was pretty great.
Yeah. And did he know exactly which?
He did. He named the episode.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh yeah, the blah 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 episode."
Yeah.
And I was like, and I told him pretty much that exact story that I just told you, and he was like, "Wow, oh thank you." He was very moved and got a little teary. So he's a sweetheart anyway. So
yeah.
So
check out Peter Linz and those other people you mentioned as well.
Yeah.
Without you don't have to name specific projects, but in this business we have to go in and audition a lot. What's the worst audition experience you've ever had?
Oh, well, did you feel the energy in the room just go, There was this one audition for a film that never happened. It was about dogs. All I remember were these dog puppets that were made of fiberglass with fur over them. And they weren't actually workable puppets. It's like they were like dog statues with a hole like in where the stomach would be, and you had to shove your arm through. You couldn't turn their heads. I think they had remote control eyes or something, but they were completely unworkable puppets, and the monitor situation wasn't good, and so you couldn't see what you were doing. It was impossible, and you walk out of there, and the script was terrible, the sides were terrible, and you just say this will never see the light of day, and it didn't. So thankfully. Do you, in that situation, do you say something to the people? Do you go no, you never say anything. You might just say, "Gosh, I'm having a hard time with this, huh? Let's see." But no complaining, just keeping it positive. It's very important. You go in, try to do your job, but don't diss the puppet, don't diss the script. None of that stuff. This project sucks. You gonna hire someone to punch up the script? I guess that's going back to being nice. Yes, exactly. The being nice comment that you had before. What's a good, what do you, before you go in for a puppet audition, like what are some of the things you think about before, and I guess it could work for acting auditions as well, but what's some of the stuff you think about before you go in for that big audition? I try to be as uber prepared as I can. The auditions that I am the most successful executing are the ones where I am the most prepared, and that's just basic acting stuff. I try to memorize the sides if I can, memorizing but not holding too tight to the script, being free to add stuff, to play around with, to improvise and bring some more stuff to it. Are you a builder at all? Have you built puppets before? I've only built a couple, and that's something I want to do more of. Weirdly, I've sewn all my life. I've constructed garments, but I've only constructed a couple of puppets, and so I'm not quite sure why. I think I've just been busy. I'm just a performer at heart, and I've always just been busy performing. So, but it's something I would definitely like to do. It seems like it's a pretty natural fit for me. I just haven't done it yet. Do you think it's a good skill, at least basic building ideas for a puppeteer to have? I think it is, because you end up respecting what goes into this creation. Someone put in hours and hours and into that, and also it helps to know what to ask for, to know what you need, to tell the wrangler, I need some foam in the top, I need a brain, a little piece of sculpted foam that sits on top of your fingers. You need the rods bent a certain way. A basic understanding of how a puppet is constructed is always helpful. Yeah. Now, you mentioned you have an acting background. You went to school for acting and were, trained to be an actor. Do you think that's a good skill for puppeteers to have as well? I think it's more important than manipulation skills, honestly. Henson has only recently hired some new puppeteers on series, and they hire them because they're great actors, fundamentally. And think of it, the best puppeteers are great actors. Peter Linz, Frank Oz, Jim Henson, all of them. You have to be a good actor to be a good puppeteer, ultimately. And the technical stuff, the manipulation skills, that can all come later. I think that's how Henson sees it. They know that someone will become technically proficient the more they do it. But if someone is innately hilarious, talented, really has a great grasp on this role, they're in, even though technically they may not be there yet. That was the case for me, certainly.
When you started, you think?
When I was hired for Sid the Science Kid by Henson. That was my first Henson job.
And that was, because I wanted to ask this question, that uses the Henson Digital Puppetry Studio. Which is, Leslie Crowe Rudolph once said, "Oh yeah, it's really easy to learn that system. You just spend 2 weeks crying, and then once you're done." Do you have the same experience, like learning that system? Do you think it was difficult?
Oh gosh, it's extremely difficult. It takes a good solid 3 weeks full time to learn it and become proficient enough to shoot something. And with my first experience on HDPS, it was Teacher Susie on Sid the Science Kid. And she has like chunks of dialogue. And then one kid will say, "Well, why is that, Teacher Susie?" And then she has another chunk of explaining. So I had to come up quick because I'm there with Julianne and Drew and Victor and Alice, and these guys have been on it for years, and I had trained on it, a couple of years prior for a few weeks, and that was very on and off. So man, I was there every hour that I could be there. I was there. They paid me for a small amount of training. I probably did 10 times that easily, and even then, I got to reshoot some things, and Brian Henson performed the iBox for me because the dialogue heavy, curriculum heavy sections were all close up too. So there was very little room for error. So, Splash and Bubbles, I trained up some puppeteers on that show, and I said, count yourself lucky. Dorian Davies' first HTPS show was Lulu on Word Party, who pretty much spoke in 3-word sentences. I was like, you got off so easy compared to me on my first show. Yeah. But it takes a good while to learn it, but once you get it going, it's great. It's very satisfying.
Having performed with these digital puppets and with regular, traditional Muppety style puppets, for lack of a better term, do you have one that you prefer?
Oh, well, I love each one. The HDPS really works out the left side of your brain at the same time as the right side of your brain, because you are thinking technically more so than you would with a regular fleece and foam puppet. I think I just prefer fleece and foam because your brain waves don't have to go through the left side of your brain. It can just come out. You can just perform this character. So yeah, I prefer that. But the HDPS is fascinating to me, and every character is different, every project is different. So it's a great challenge to be able to pull off.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Sid the Science Kid. In Sid the Science Kid, Teacher Susie did a lot of singing as well. Mm-hmm. And you were someone who is a very good singer. And did you train, had singing training?
Sure. Yeah, not so much in college. I took a lot of private lessons after college and really throughout my career. I'm a huge believer in taking class. I'm not taking class now, and that's unusual. I'm always in some kind of class, an acting class, an improv class, a singing class. I think it's super important. And with puppeteers, it's an ever expanding pool, but the ones who do HDPS, the pool gets smaller. The ones who sing and do HDPS, the pool gets even smaller. It's really important to have as many boxes checked on your resume as possible. And if you are an okay singer, take class. Be a good singer. If you're a good singer, be a better singer. Mm-hmm. There's always room for improvement for all of us, all the time. So I'm a huge believer in class.
Yeah, because we have both performed in Puppet Up, and mm-hmm. I have sort of a little bit of the same attitude of when we perform in Puppet Up is, if Patrick or Brian says, "Oh, we need somebody to do that," I will always jump in to try and learn something new, because like you said, the pool gets smaller and smaller, and if if you're somebody who can do a lot of different things, you're more likely to get a job.
Absolutely. It's funny, I had a conversation with a puppeteer several years ago who felt, in a moment of frustration, he said, the same 4 guys get all the jobs. He said, they're the cream of the crop. I can't break in. They're the cream of the crop. And I was like, okay, so be the cream. Yeah. Our job is to be the cream, to rise to the top.
Yeah.
If you're not the cream, be the cream. That's on you.
Yeah. That is perfect advice.
I've said that many times to many people.
Yeah. Be the cream.
Be the cream.
Be the cream, people.
Cream rises to the top. Be the cream.
You have a puppetry reel, right?
Yes.
A demo reel. Do you think it's important for puppeteers to have a reel?
Absolutely. I've used it a number of times. It came together quite by accident. I had selected some pieces, and then I was up for the pilot of Mutt and Stuff, and Marty Croft said, "Who are these people? I don't know these puppeteers." And so Bradley Zweig, the EP, said, "Do you have a reel?" "Okay, sure." So we threw it together in a few days, and off it went. And it's the reel I still use. It's not updated, but I've used it many times, and I think it's really important to have. And yeah, I think you've said this before. It doesn't have to be edited yet. The hardest part is finding the selects, finding those bits of footage that you want to use, getting them all put into a file folder. That takes the most time. The editing actually takes a lot less time. So I hear.
Yeah. Well, and also I think even if somebody says, "Oh, I've only ever done one thing." And it's like, well, pick the best part of that one thing, and if somebody asks for a reel, you can at least show them that. It's better than going like, I don't have anything, I've only done one thing.
Sure.
To at least show them something.
Absolutely. And this day and time where anyone can be a filmmaker,
yeah,
you can shoot stuff. I mean, I so admire so many of puppeteers that we know who just crank out material. You're top of that. Who just are cranking out material all the time. These days, there's kind of no excuse for not having a lot of footage of yourself puppeteering. But that being said, I've said this to other puppeteers as well. It better be good and it better be competitive if you're going to be releasing it. Look at other puppeteers' reels and see what they've put on. Check their technique. It's gotta be competitive. If it's not, don't put it out.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
There's too much competition these days.
Right. Be the cream.
Be the cream.
What are some things that you always bring with you when you go to work on a set?
I always bring a Sharpie, a highlighter, a roll of Scotch tape to tape the script to the monitor. I sometimes forget my big shoes, and I always get yelled at for it. But I'm not a short puppeteer, so I'm always. And I don't have short arms, so I don't know why people always want. Why didn't you bring your shoes? Because I'm not short. Pretty much the basics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
gum and deodorant? Oh yeah, a travel size deodorant. First date fresh. You got to be first date fresh.
You are the first person I've interviewed who've said deodorant, and that's something I always bring. I was like, someone has to say deodorant.
And even sometimes a backup T-shirt. If you know it's going to be a long day out in the sun, bring a backup shirt.
Yeah.
First date fresh. We coined that phrase in Belfast on Pajanimals. You got to be first date fresh.
Right.
It's fresh breath. Fresh feet, fresh underarms. That's very important.
And that goes back to being nice.
Yes.
You want to be nice to everybody in word and smell.
Exactly.
What has been, so far, your most memorable moment in puppetry?
Oh, gosh. I had a couple just recently, really last year. I got to do an HDPS, just a little test with Billy Crystal. And they said, okay, you're just going to improvise with Billy Crystal. Okay, I'm going to improvise with you, Billy. Donna, we're just going to improvise, okay? Okay, Billy?
Yes,
I
and?
was like, oh my, I know. Just like, relax, just be open. Yes, and just don't think about how awesome this is. Just do it.
Yeah.
That was pretty great. And then the benefit for the Center for Puppetry Arts honoring Dave Goals. That was pretty much just one mind-blowing experience after another. I got to sub in for Kathy Mullen doing Moki as a Fraggle Rock thing with Kevin Clash, John Tartaglia, and Karen Prell, and me. And I was like, oh my God, how did I get here? This is so awesome. And then to do the Bell and Buzzer sketch from Puppet Up with Bill Beretta, with Dave Goals and Debbie Goals standing on stage with us. And Patrick Bristow there too, and I'm going, this is amazing, how did I get here? But so many, it's amazing to just be working with so many people you admire and so many legends, and to be standing among them doing what you do, and being on stage with Dave Goals, who is singing the Gonzo song right there. He was right there.
Right.
It's just fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. What is one aspect of your puppetry that you are most critical about?
Oh, everything. Really, Grant. You look at a performance and you go, why did they use that take? You can pretty much drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
So pretty much everything. That could have been funnier. That eye line could have been nailed a little better. Oh, I was late on that gesture. That's the hardest thing, I think, to watch your own performance as an actor at all, even though it's not, it's your work as a puppeteer, but it's not your face or voice. Your face as an actor. But there's another aspect. I want to enjoy it more. Like any career, you can kind of get caught up in the work and the schedules and contracts and getting jobs and having work, not having work. But I think I want to just keep reminding myself, I think I'm getting better at this, to just really have fun with what we do. What we do is really unique, and to keep that perspective and step back and go, wow, this is an amazing career.
Yeah.
It's a wonderfully creative thing that we do and an important thing that we do. And just to enjoy it more. Don't get so caught up in details.
Yeah. Do you think it's valuable to watch your performance? I know it's difficult, because I hate it myself too. But,
yeah,
but do you
of
think
course
it's valuable?
It is. It absolutely is. Sure. And to try to take your emotion out of it and just the facts, ma'am. Really just look at the performance and look at it technically and try to improve. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up here, I would love to know what so far in your career has been your favorite character to play.
I think it was Sweet Pea Sue on the Pajanimals. That was a character that was not terribly developed on paper yet. The other girl character, Cowbella, she was a fully realized character, and Sweet Pea Sue originally was a male character, and then at the last minute they changed it to female, and didn't have a whole lot for her, and I just started coming up with stuff, and they just let me go, and she ended up being this weird, wonderful, fun, crazy, artistic girl character that I think really ended up a lot of little girls really loved her, and she is a favorite. I wish I could play her again, but I think we're done with Pajanimals, but that show will always have a soft spot in my heart.
Yeah. And now flipping it, who's your favorite puppet character that is not your own, that you do not perform?
Well, Tedder and Bear in the Big Blue House. Oh, that show Big and Small, that with the Canadian puppeteers, and then they changed the voices. They shot it in Belfast, so they had talked about it all the time. And I watched it. That little small character, I'm in love with that character. I have crazy weird love for that character. I haven't even seen that show that much, but that little puppet and the way he's performed. I think I met the puppeteer who did it. His name escapes me, but I just love that little character. Just a little weird little guy.
Well, Donna Kimball, thank you so much for talking to us today. I've learned so much and really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, Grant.
I absolutely love talking to Donna about her take on the art and business of puppetry, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it. For a link to Donna's IMDb page, visit the entry for this episode number 4, over at underthepuppet.com. Well, now it's time for the next step in your puppeteer action plan. We've talked about your puppetry reel, but how does your puppetry resume look? Like your reel, this is something that you should take a look at every so often to make sure it's completely updated to include your most recent projects. A resume is just a simple list of the projects you've worked on and usually includes the character name, name of the production, and the production company, channel, or theater where the production happened or was shown. For example, if we were to take a peek at Carol Spinney's resume, one line might read, Big Bird / Oscar the Grouch, Sesame Street, Children's Television Workshop. That's it. Then the next credit would be on the line after that, and so on and so on and so on. Generally, your most recent credit goes on the top. If you don't have a resume, it's time to start putting one together, even if you only have a few credits. Casting folks don't always ask you for a resume when you go in for auditions, but if they do, you want to make sure you have one ready to go. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Under the Puppet. I welcome your feedback via email at hello@SaturdayMorningMedia.com or via Twitter, where the show is at username Under the Puppet. I want to hear your suggestions for the questions that I should be asking and for future guests. Also, the goal for this show is to talk to puppeteers who are making it happen in all sorts of styles of puppetry. So if you know an amazing bunraku or shadow puppet artist, please reach out. Let me know who I should be talking to. Thank you so much for listening. Talk to you next time on Under the Puppet. Under the Puppet is a production of Saturday Morning Media and is made possible by the Saturday Morning Media Patreon patrons who've gone to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media and set up a monthly donation for as little as $1 a month. Huge thanks to Shay Stewart, Mer Lafferty, Jeff Peterson, Dale Gadania, Stephen Staver, Jackie Climo, Melissa Crawford, Dave Slusher of the Evil Genius Chronicles, Mike Coughlin, Dorothy Pachoco, John D., Kathy Crawford, Brian Greer, Carrie Whitney, Chuck Tomasi of the Technorama Podcast, Chris Foster, Stephen Ing, Clinton of ComedyForecast.com, Vicky DeVries, Mike Wapshall, Twitter user Buttsinggear, a.k.a. Wildcat, Eve Cunning, Mike Hamilton, Gaston Moreno, Reed Loveland, Ivan Asquith, Vanessa Whitney, Nancy McCarthy, Janine Lee, Peggy Etra, Kristen Hogan of Squid Friends, and David Akers. If you'd like to support this show and the other fun content from Saturday Morning Media, become a patron. Head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media and set up your monthly donation today. You can also tell a friend about the show or leave the show a review on iTunes. And while you're over there on iTunes, be sure to click that subscribe button. That way you'll get new episodes the moment they are released. And also, subscribing helps other people find out about the show. Under the Puppet is copyright 2017 Saturday Morning Media, Grant Bachoco executive producer, all rights reserved. www.saturdaymorningmedia.com. You've been listening to Saturday Morning Media. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.